Hey everyone, it's Bob Perkins coming to you from AA-ISP's Inside Sales Studio. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm joined by two special guests that are not quite halfway around the world, but they're over in the UK country. And Kevin Kelly, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Great, Bob. Great to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Kevin is the president of the London, UK chapter. He's also the co-founder of Protelos Group, does a lot of work with digital sales. Also with us is Andy Hough. Andy, it's great to have you today.
Lovely to be here, Bob.
Andy is the managing director and founder of the APS, Association of Professional Sales. In fact, the AA-ISP and the APS just formed a partnership recently. So together we're helping the sales profession, not just here in the United States, but over in Europe and around the world. So it's great to have you again, Andy. Welcome.
Lovely to be here.
All right. So here we're going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about a state of inside sales. What's happening with inside sales as a profession? You know, and it's happening all around the world in different ways. So I'd like the two of you to get us started just to reflect on what you're seeing happening in inside sales over the last year or two, and maybe where you see it going in the future. And Kevin, why don't we get started with you?
Yeah, I think, Bob, there's not a better time right now to be involved in sales, in my opinion. It's absolutely dynamic. I think what we've seen, certainly over in the UK and Ireland over the last number of years, is that I guess this explosion of inside sales, the inside sales profession, and it's absolutely intriguing to watch this grow. For me, from being over here and obviously being part of the chapter, I get to talk to a lot of people in different industries, and they are hugely impressed, and I guess have a lot of views on the future of inside sales over in particular in Europe. And it's all positive. We're getting a lot of positive energy. I think we're seeing a lot of inside sales roles, I guess, being implemented in places that were never there before. So it's an outstanding time, I think, in particular if you're an inside sales rep.
Yeah, listen, we get over to Dublin, Ireland every year for a conference. You and I talk. We got so many companies over there that can't hire fast enough. In fact, they're struggling to find candidates.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you can see this in Ireland, obviously, with the businesses and the quality of businesses that are over there, and certainly you see this in London. And it's probably the number one, I guess, challenge we have is how do we get top class talent into this area, because the bar has been raised in inside sales, and we're looking for a lot more professionalism in that area, and there's a lot more depending on that area. So again, I agree with you, Bob. The challenge is recruitment is a big one.
Hey, we're going to dig into the professionalism and the roles here in a few minutes, but Andy, you have a very interesting background and a great vantage point working with APS, seeing sales models of all type, both inside and field. What is how would you reflect upon what's happening with this profession?
I think the whole inside sales kind of and the team modeling came around in the back end of probably the 2010 decade, when everybody suffered global meltdown. I think companies really started to look to try and find more cost-effective ways to reach the market. We all know that at some point, as Simon Sinek said, that human capital became the balancing figure for a lot of financial directors, and sales was absolutely in the crosshairs. And I think that was a very unwise decision. But the common wisdom at the time was that technology and the Internet of Things meant that middle area of what Neil Rackham calls the frown meant that people were being pushed to the side, and it was becoming a smile. There was less of those kind of solution sales type roles. People would make their own decisions up. So it kind of moved to more transactional, very, very complex sales at the edges. perversely, I think actually what's happened is that technology capability has actually stood that model on its head. And what's happened is now technology means that anybody who's in a desk-based, not in a car-based role, for want of a better description, is absolutely holding great relationships now with people. So there is no reason why large transactions can't be closed out by this efficient model. And I think the modern thinking now is, hang on, I've got this great way of providing excellent customer centricity. And now, instead of actually reducing your cost base, what you're doing is you're finding the edges of the market, and you're actually bringing customer centricity back to you. So where organizations, I think, Bob, classically use channel or distribution, I think particularly now they're using this inside sales model to really actually take ownership of customer relationships back and start to actually engage more customers directly. And I think that that's a great thing.
It is, and I love the caption I saw in Kevin Kelly's LinkedIn last week that said, inside sales is the new face-to-face sales. I love that. Kevin, tell us about that a little bit, especially given Andy's comments.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I listened, obviously, Andy, a huge respect for Andy. I've known Andy quite a period of time. And I get, all these comments, absolutely, totally agree with. It's interesting, actually, Bob, that slide, I'd love to say it was all me. It wasn't. I was in a conference in Chicago, very well, Bob, in April, the Leadership Council with the AA-ISP. And I think somebody had initially brought something very similar up, and it intrigued me. It intrigued me because people automatically think a call is either a cold call, a warm call, or literally just a basic call. And the new inside sales, and if I was to say one of the primary factors, and Andy mentioned this as well, of the success of inside sales has been the availability of video conference technology. Yeah. It's absolutely been number one. And, I had a great call. I put it up because I had a great call with actually one of your employees, Cameron, in the US. And it was absolutely superb. And here I was talking to someone thousands of miles away, and it was like as if I was face to face, like we are now, Bob. And yeah. I think that is the game changer in inside sales, in my opinion. So yes, I'm usually passionate about that.
I want to couple what you said, what Andy commented on the complex sale. In our last research, which we do at the association, we asked the question, what alternative methods are you using besides the phone and besides email? Because those are the two big ones. And everything was on the rise. Video was close to 50% deployed. Texting, instant messaging, LinkedIn. I call it the era of the Dick Tracy watch. And pretty soon, guys, we're going to have holograms. That's how we're going to do these webinars. Andy, let's go back to you. Again, I'll mention, tell the viewers quickly about APS, if you would, because I think you have a great insight into the sales world where you're at. What does the APS do, and how are the two of us going to work together in the future?
Okay, so the APS basically is on a journey to become a chartered professional body. Here in the UK, it's the one country in the world where you can get Queen's Privy Council recognition to actually get a profession at parity with, I think, what the globe accepts are other Chartered Institute of Accounting and Engineers. And our vision is to do that for the whole of sales, but our vision is to work with AA-ISP because no one's content is purely brilliant alone. So you have to reach out to other great content and other great associations. And all sales is slightly unique. Field sales, retail sales, business development, bid management, all have their own nuances and capabilities. And so we're really excited about the relationship with the inside sales professional body, yourselves, because we think actually we can start to then specialize and look at particularly this really, really unique and I think very opportune sales vehicle for organizations, because I actually think field sales has kind of gone very much more to inside sales, particularly in the use of its technology. When we met last time, I think sometimes we get so drawn to a particular view. You know, I would love, and many of our corporates would love to have field sellers spending far more time in their customers, in fact, based in customers. But that isn't happening because customers, whether you're servicing them on the phone, on the web, or face-to-face, or whatever, they're increasingly busy. And I think what you have is this plethora of people coming into the sales profession who are really comfortable with the personalization of choice. You just mentioned it there. Text, email, video, mail, the omni-channel way. And you've got these young entrepreneurs who have their own territories, have their own accounts, and are using almost an Amazon way of dealing with people, which is, instead of the old days when you gave them a brochure or a meeting was the only option, I'll personalize this for you, and I'll communicate with you in the way that you want to be communicated with. And I think there's a real behavioral lesson there for a lot of people.
Well, look, listen, you and I spoke about 3-4 weeks ago. APS, AA-ISP, in conjunction with a well-known university and some PhDs, and another one of our partners, are going to embark upon research along the lines of what you just said. Hopefully by next April at the Leadership Summit, we're going to roll out the findings of the research, but we're going to be asking decision makers, prospects, buyers, company leaders. We're going to ask them exactly what you said. How do you prefer to engage with a salesperson? And when you do, what do you want to get out of it? What are your goals? How do you want to communicate? And I think we're going to be in for a pleasant results from that. Let's kind of move to the meat of what we wanted to spend a few minutes on today, and that is a little bit about these models. And again, from our own Top Challenges research, we found that over about the last 10 years to current, that the predominant model for inside sales was in a team role. In other words, an inside rep would be partnered with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 field reps, and they would help them with a variety of things, from support to actually selling to a whole list of things. Very common model. We found that over the last few years that the discrete model, which Kevin mentioned earlier, where the inside rep owns the full quota, they're directly selling to the customer and responsible for that quota, not in a team sense, has overtaken the percentage. Now, we still have team models deployed today very successfully, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing inside the discrete model, owning the own quota, really taking off and overshadowing the team model. So Andy, we'll go back to you kind of in your interactions with some of your member companies. Tell us a little bit about these two roles, how they're deployed, what's working, what's not, and have you seen the shift as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, back to, when it started, I don't think people saw inside sales as having the same level of either capability or credibility to actually own big numbers. And actually, let's be honest, that's poppycock, I mean, good old English way of saying it. It's not true. I actually think there's a place for both. I have seen technology companies work both models quite well. And I think it comes down to, what are you trying to achieve? Mm-hmm. I think, as we talked about, in finding the edges of the market, the absolute discrete model really is the way to go. You want one person owning that relationship. You want them actually making sure that they're going through the buying cycle, not the sales cycle. They're taking the customer through the buying cycle. They're going through the whole kind of resilience programming that they have to go through. And I think that's working really, really well in finding organizations net new customers and bringing that in every single industry we touch through, from logistics through to IT, through to, document management, through to, payment services. That there's absolutely a place. I think There's also a place for the team model, but there's, I think, two different types of team, really, Bob. So I think there is a team in terms of the account. There's a team in terms of the territory. And there's two ways that I think that works particularly well. I think clearly the old days, I think now, and CEB have looked at this technology, the old days when you had one person, when that person was forcing down the decision to buy throughout their organization, we all know are gone. 6.4 people in the buying decision.
Yeah.
You need people who are going to be actually creating relationships in global accounts all over the globe by every multimedia method they possibly can. And then you clearly need people who are going to be able to go in and do very, very complex negotiations on part of those. So I think that team effort really works.
Yep.
I think sometimes it works really, really well in territories as well. Where I think it works really well is if you have a slight little bit of team and contention. And I think that really works well, particularly in tech companies where, let's be honest, traditional salespeople out in the field haven't necessarily paid attention to contract renewals, maintenance renewals, etc. And I think we've been able to use renewals teams and inside sales teams to really go, okay, let's see how we absolutely make sure that we maximize the revenue. From there, we don't leave revenue on the table. And I think it works really well if you have a great CRM system, field being notified really, really well that there's an opportunity coming up here. But if you don't maximize this, there's some really strong people who are going to go and maximize that opportunity for you. So I think if I was an organization, I would be looking at what I want to achieve by account or by territory or by customer segment. Yep. And I would be giving each model its opportunity within my organization.
I kind of like what I heard you say around the more complex of the engagement, the motion, the what needs to be accomplished. A team model could make sense there. It's like a sports team, different players, different roles, different job descriptions, if you will, but both trying to get the ball across the goal line. Kevin, you're a big proponent, I know, of inside sales being able to do it all. I think part of that is the acceptance of the buyer, the customer today to do sales remotely. What's your perspective on these two roles?
Oh, it was just, my default process with this, Bob, is to tend to always look at the opportunity and the key characteristics in particular around that inside sales. And, just to go through maybe a few, obviously the lower cost channel without question is not something people hugely focus on, but it is important to recognize. Technology adopters without question, but you've also got to look at the response time and the visibility of the metrics. The immediate visibility of the metrics in that world is incredible as well. And, the coverage model is another one. So, we look at professional sales. We want to be judged as professional salespeople. Well, you know what? Inside sales have proven that they're a sales channel. That's absolutely clear right now.
Yeah.
And, and I guess for us going forward, the expectation is getting higher and higher and higher. So, and the one thing Andy mentioned, and you mentioned as well, Bob, was quite interesting. Customer buying behavior has changed immensely over the last 5 to 10 years. Yeah. But they totally accept that they can converse with somebody over the phone and do high substantial deals now over the phone. And it's not an issue for customers right now, and that's been proven as well.
It's more convenient. I mean, they go home at night and they fire up Amazon and click, click, click. It's there 2 days later at their doorstep. All right, this is a good segue, and I'm going to throw both of you just a little bit of a curveball. This wasn't on the list of questions we prepared with, so I hope you don't mind. But I'm going to ask each of you if you could just put on the, look into the crystal ball 5 years ahead. What is sales going to look like? Kind of as it relates a little bit to what we were talking about. What's going to be happening? Is there anything new out there? How is the profession going to change 5 years ahead? Crystal ball time. Kevin, we'll go back to you for this and then end with Andy.
Okay, listen, this is a favorite subject of mine, and it's also one of these subjects where Everybody has an opinion. This is brilliant because opinion is so important. Artificial intelligence, yes, that's absolutely in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But what I believe, Bob, is I believe the inside sales have a huge challenge, right? And obviously with artificial intelligence and the capabilities that come into this process, inside sales have to raise the bar. What they're doing right now is not good enough for 5 years down the line. They have got to continue to improve, continue to be the best they can be, because what I see and how I see artificial intelligence is supporting the process,
Yes.
not taking over the process.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and that's my view. But so my message to the inside sales community is keep building your skill set, keep learning, keep developing, keep pushing.
That's a great mission. I think we let's not get complacent is what I'm hearing you say.
Correct.
Great mission.
Absolutely.
Andy, 5 years ahead, what's the selling world going to look like?
I think at the high level, it's going to be more customer centristic. It's going to be focused on an addictive experience. I think that experience is going to have to be omni-channel, omni-technical. It is going to have to be personalized. I think it's going to potentially work both ways. I think consumerization is going to continue to have an influence as well as technology. So I can see where any seller in the future is actually kind of rated and credited, TripAdvisor for want of a better way. But I can also see buyers being rated, and I can see a bridge starting to occur between both organizations. I think the future of sales will not be the same as it is today. I think field will be very much characterized as more the FMCG type, the enablement, the retail type convenience engagement. I think we'll have to redefine kind of account management and key account management, because that's pretty much where I think what we see as classic field is going. Yeah. But what I actually see is that this young, exciting set of individuals is going to be coming through, particularly inside sales as a channel. And they're the ones that are going to be leading us into the new nirvana of what sales is like. And it's going to be omni-channel, because if you don't be omni-channel, you're just waiting to be Amazon fodder, because they'll just come in and just be a catalog and online. So I think, we've got this really exciting technical platform, customized engagement, addictive experience. My fear is, how do we keep attracting people to sales? How do we get people to stay in the profession? Yeah. How do we, keep enticing people to develop themselves and actually start to look today as, well, what do I need to learn myself for the next 5 years? And when we get to those next 5 years, what do I need to learn for the 5 years after that?
Look, you're the APS, your association is very much behind continuing to raise the profession, to make it credible, to make it highly professional. Kevin made that comment just a few minutes ago. Keep raising the bar. So I think that's a good end point here for this discussion. I do want to take just a moment to talk about some upcoming events that the AA-ISP and the APS will be involved with. And I'll start with November 1st of this year. The AA-ISP Women's Connect group in the UK will have a meeting, and it's for women that are looking to advance their career in the sales profession. It's like a chapter meeting, so get involved in that. Kevin, tell us about your November 8th chapter meeting.
Okay, so we're super excited. We talked it. We went through LinkedIn today to announce that we are holding our first event. This is the first time we've brought the AA-ISP and the APS together. It's on the 8th of November, and it's hosted by great people, the Toshiba people. Ben Gaston in particular has done a fantastic job to help support us here. But this is truly great, because we have two organizations that are dedicated exclusively to the advancing of professional sales, which is amazing. We're bringing them both together. We're going to have some very good guests. The team are coming over. Some of your team are coming over, Bob. Yeah. And it's the week before, obviously, the Dublin event, but We're really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to the APS members sitting in with us, and it's going to be a great event.
Well, look, I wish I could be there, but on the same day, November 8th, I'm going to be in Paris, France for a Paris kind of launch meeting as well. But I'm going to miss seeing you guys. I know Cameron and Ashley will be over.
Yeah.
And Andy, we look forward to joining forces on that. And then finally, on November 13th is Digital Sales World in Dublin, Ireland. Kevin, you've been to that before, and make a comment to the viewers on what they can expect if they go over to Dublin for the day.
When I go to these events, what I expect, Bob, I guess most of the time is to, invest my time in the community, to learn something. That's the key thing here, to go and talk to somebody in my community, in that inside sales world, and take something away from the event. But Dublin in particular is great. Obviously, I'm from Ireland originally, so this is fantastic, but it's also in Croke Park, which is the home of sport in Ireland, which is fantastic. And it's a great place to meet. And the inside sales community in particular in Ireland is very, very strong. So for me, come to the event and learn something, take something away, and you won't be disappointed.
That's fantastic. And Andy, APS is going to have involvement as well at Digital Sales World on the 13th of November. Any tips or comments you want to make out to your viewers?
I think that, really excited to be there, and thank you for the opportunity. It's going to be great. I mean, I think digital and actually what AA-ISP are going to be talking about in that is really, really important, because I think sales has been somewhat hijacked by this concept of social selling. And I think it's a great opportunity to start challenging people about actually, it's using technology. Social in itself hasn't changed anything. Inside sellers are having to go through those 12 touch points that we've been going through since the year dot. So I'm really looking forward to kind of poking a bit at these magical people that say it's all about the social. It's like, okay, let's talk about actually what modern day selling is all about, and it's all about that, experience and that technology.
Well, look, I know we have a room. I think we have room for a couple more panels. That would be a really interesting panel for you to lead. But hey, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining today. Really appreciate your time, your effort. Kevin, for doing a great job as the chapter president. Andy, with APS and AA-ISP joining together to kind of move the ball forward. Really look forward to working more with you and seeing you all in November.
Looking forward to it.
Right. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for your time. See you, Andy.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.